Welcome to the Wing Space podcast, a place to take up space, a space for you to settle in, sit back, relax, and focus a little bit on health, wellness, faith, family, and this crazy thing called life.
This podcast is not a replacement for mental health treatment or professional health care. In case of crisis or emergency, please contact your local healthcare provider or dial 911.
Hey there, and welcome to the Wing Space podcast, a place to take up space. Welcome to season 4 of our podcast, and today we have with us Logan Roberts, our executive assistant here at Hope and Healing. And Logan and I are going to talk about our self-care retreat that we had for our staff this weekend and how you can incorporate self-care into your days and maybe even create a little mini retreat yourself. So Logan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Logan, do you want to tell our audience just a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so you already said my role. I'm the executive assistant at Hope and Healing. I've been here since 2022, so going on 2 years, and I love the position that I do.
And I, for one, am certainly so glad to have you. I've joked before and probably said it on the podcast, and I know I say it in the office that, Anastasia as our clinical director is my right hand, and I feel like you're definitely the left hand. So the retreat this past weekend could not have happened without you. So thank you for all your help with that. Our podcast audience may or may not know about our retreat, and I know our folks who follow us on socials have seen things through the years. So I'm just going to share a little bit about the background of our self-care retreats, and then we'll dive into this past weekend. Does that sound good with you?
Sounds great.
Our self-care retreat for our staff was born out of this idea that the work that we do is hard. It's an honor and it's a privilege to work with the clients that we do and to walk alongside them on their journey of healing. But I know that the work is hard, and I know that we are sometimes a little hypocritical when we talk to our clients about taking care of yourself and all those things, and then we don't always do the very best kind of walking the walk. We can talk the talk, but we don't really walk the walk as much. So we started our self-care retreats in the midst of COVID, but by that time we had a handful of staff, and so it was my goal to give back to them, but also remind us of the things that we needed to do in order to take care of ourselves and really feed into our own buckets, fill our buckets, because we don't always do that. So 2020 was like a half day, and we have always tried to use local resources and local businesses for our retreats. So 2020 was a half day, and then 2021 we added in an extra meal, I guess you could say. So then it became a full day in 2022. I think we continued with a full day, and then it was in 2023 that we added a Friday evening, and then this year we kind of went all in for a weekend. So one of our staff members shared with us a retreat center in, I guess, southern Anne Arundel County, just beyond Calvert County's borders, and we packed up and moved into the retreat center for the weekend. And this was your second retreat with us, right, Logan?
Yes, so last year was my first year at the retreat, and this was the second.
Yeah, so I feel like I could talk for days about the different highlights and the different things that are so fun about each of the retreats. I love to just watch the group connect and laugh and just have a good time. We're proficient at scheduling clients, and everyone has their day scheduled out, and so finding time to connect and laugh and things like that is hard at times, for sure. So that's one of my biggest highlights, is just watching everybody come together. We have 2 offices plus some telehealth staff, so there's people that never see each other except usually twice a year for our self-care retreat and then our holiday party. So I'm curious, you participated last year, you were an integral part of this year's retreat, not only in planning and preparation, but also participating. So I'm curious, what would you say were some highlights for you from this past weekend?
Yeah, so they were, to kind of go into a little more detail as well, last year was just as amazing, but also different. So last year, as you said, it was more of like one day of just jam-packed fun self-care stuff that you provided for us. This year it was a little more kind of slow down, really take a moment to, if you want 30 minutes to yourself, you can go to the tree and read a book. But the highlight in general for me, I just really enjoyed getting to connect with members that, we don't see often. And even if I do see someone in Leonardtown, it's not like we get 45 minutes to just catch up on their life. So my favorite part was really just learning about what my coworkers enjoy to do outside of work, that things we don't get to really talk about in the midst of our day-to-day 9 to 5 job. I found out some of my coworkers do triathlons, some of them knit, they bake, and it's like, wow, it's so nice to get to know you on this level. We're used to a couple minutes here and there, or unfortunately, if they do work in a different location, not even getting that face-to-face communication. So that really was, I think, the highlight of it, is just getting a full 48 hours to relax and unwind with your coworker.
Yeah, and that's been one of the things that's been in the feedback form. So after each of the retreats, I send out the Google form and ask everybody for their input, and that's really been one thing that everyone has always asked for, is more downtime, more time to just connect. And I've struggled with that in the past because I want to make the day meaningful for everyone, but I don't want to come back to the office and just hang out. And historically, we've done the retreat in Leonardtown Square, basically, and we've hit all the local shops and restaurants and activities at the wharf and things like that. So when we're going to have just downtime, like where do we go to do that? And the retreat this weekend really gave us a chance to do that. And I'll admit, I don't know about you, but I was nervous about what that was going to feel like, right? Because I wanted everyone to not feel like it was like, why are we here? What are we doing? But it was interesting because we had a couple of hours on Saturday where we had a small activity, kind of a small activity together, and then there was about 45 minutes before seated massages started, and so that was only one person at a time. And it was like we engaged in an activity together, and then slowly everyone kind of went into smaller groups or even by themselves. And I was a little worried at first, are people feeling left out, or are people bored or anything like that? But, I think everyone kind of went to do the thing that they don't often get to do. One of our team members said she loves to just walk in the woods, and so she was by herself with a big giant walking stick, and she was walking through the walking paths. And someone else who has young children was able to sit, like you said, under a tree and read a book. I will admit that was when I took a couch nap. So we all had a chance to do what we needed to do. But then there were also small groups of people, sitting by the swing or sitting outside or in the living room or on the back deck and just laughing and having conversation and really, really connecting. I think that
I definitely think that was the beauty of it, is just, if, I saw you taking a nap, it's like, okay, that's what she needs right now for her self-care. These people are on the swing talking, it's like what you said, everyone was doing in that moment what they needed to fill their cup at that time.
Yeah, and it made me think of how often do our listeners give themselves permission to do what it is that they need to do. And when I say need to do, I'm not talking about the to-do list. I'm not talking about all the things that the world tells us that we, quote, need or should do. But what is it that we actually need to fill our soul, to fill our spirit, to fill our cup, right? Do we need to step away and take a quick little nap? Do we need to grab a book and go read? Do we need to walk? Do we need to connect with friends? Do we need to, have some face-to-face time with someone? Because we don't often prioritize that thing that we need. We focus so much on the things that we should. So, Logan, I'm curious what your thoughts are. How you could incorporate some mini retreats or self-care activities in your day, how our listeners might do that as well. Before we do that, let's take a quick break to hear about some upcoming services here at Hope and Healing, and we'll be right back.
Are you a yogi in Southern Maryland looking for a place to practice on Thursday mornings? Look no further than Gentle Yoga with Lori Bruce at Hope and Healing in Leonardtown. A certified yoga therapist, Lori brings over 2 decades of yoga training and teaching to her classes. Gentle Yoga with Lori is suitable for all levels. Join us in person or tune in from home, as all Thursday morning classes will be available virtually. Space is limited, so reserve your spot today at loribruceyoga.com/schedule.
All right, so welcome back to the podcast and our conversation. Logan and I are talking about self-care. We had our staff self-care retreat this past weekend. So at the end of our retreat, we had a little activity where we talked about what we loved and what we learned and what we're going to take away. And it was really great to hear all the things that people said about what they learned about themselves and other people and about our team, but also things to take away. And I know for me, I took away just the reminder of how important it is to carve out time for myself, carve out time to rest and replenish and renew and all of those things. What about you? What did you take away in terms of how you might incorporate this idea of self-care into your
Yeah, so as we've kind of been saying, I think it's so important to fill your own cup before you can fill other people's. And this weekend was really just an eye-opener that how truthful that really is. You know, when I came home, I felt like I was the best version of myself. You know, I was able to give 100% to my daughter and my husband because I took that moment and did nothing for 30 minutes or, did yoga for an hour with you guys. Taking away from that, I think that, anyone, including myself, can take a walk by yourself, wake up the 30 minutes extra maybe and go by yourself outside for a walk, or make your favorite cup of coffee and go upstairs if you can. It doesn't have to be go to a yoga class. I think that's the beauty of self-care. It can be laying in bed an extra 20 minutes so you get 20 minutes to yourself, or it can be book that massage, go relax and get a massage, relax in a bath, light a candle. Sometimes little things like that is, as silly as it sounds, my self-care. Like lighting a candle and having a candle at night is something that makes me happy. So yeah, I think that's the beauty of self-care. It really is just depends on what you personally find that can fill your own cup. For someone, it might be laying in bed, taking the drive, little things like that. So yeah, I fully think that everyone needs to fill their own cup, take 30 minutes, an hour if you can, do something that you enjoy for yourself.
Yeah, you mentioned, as I drink my cup of coffee that I made this morning, you mentioned, making that cup of coffee. And I had someone say to me the other day that instead of making their coffee in their to-go cup and drinking it on the way to work, this person decided to make it in a regular coffee mug and to sit down and drink the coffee. And we talked about what an experience that is, because you're not going to chug a hot cup of coffee, right? It's going to take a few minutes for you to sip through it. And this person really had a wonderful experience just enjoying a cup of coffee before the start of the day. And, we did that this weekend. We made some coffee, we sat and we chatted. It was wonderful that those that wanted to sleep in could sleep in, and those of us who were earlier risers went outside on the back deck and had our coffee and had our conversations. And I spent a lot of time talking to my clients, but also our podcast listeners have heard me say this, and our staff have heard me say this, that we have to feed and fuel and move and rest our body. Those are the really 4 key components. And we did all of those things this weekend. We definitely, fed ourselves. We had good food. We had meals together. We had good community meals and healthy meals, but yet still some good yummy treats. We made sure to stay hydrated and we moved our body. We were going for walks outside. We had some yoga and we rested. We each took what we needed in terms of, there were some people that went to bed early, there were some people that slept in, there were people that took naps, there were people that just went and sat in the sun or in the shade. And it's important for our listeners to take that away and know that, they too can find opportunities to feed and fuel and move and rest their bodies. Because at the end of the day, you said it, if we're not filling ourselves, then we're not able to take care of everyone else. And that's where my nap came in on Saturday. My couch nap was, I was sitting on the couch and I had a book on my lap and I was doing a little bit of scrolling, and I thought, I am pretty tired right now and I still have a full day. It was 11:30 on Saturday morning, and I said, I still have a pretty full day of taking care of my staff. And so I looked at one of our team members and I said, pay no attention to the sleeper at the end of the couch. And I just pulled over a blanket and took a nap while you guys did what you did. And I needed that to be able to then go into the rest of the day and into the evening. And I would invite our listeners to consider, what is it that you need today? And what is it that you need tomorrow and each day? What is it that you need to be able to take care of yourself and to fill your cup so that you can take care of other people? Any last minute thoughts or ideas about the retreat, or ways that our listeners or even you might create some self-care opportunities in our life?
I definitely think just the takeaway is to take the moment to do it. It's like it's so easy to not do it because you're in the midst of the chaos of your life, but it's so important. It is. So for myself, I know I've even been thinking, I'm like, okay, I know my daughter wakes up at 7. Maybe I need to set my alarm for 6:15. Do the coffee. And if I don't set my alarm, then maybe that is my self-care, just sleeping in until she wakes up. But I just want to, again, thank you for the opportunity to have gotten to kind of reset. That was the first time I was away from my daughter for that long. So it was good for everyone involved. It was good for my husband to get that time with her. It was good for me to see that, okay, she can do these things without me. So it really did just open my eyes, and it was a great weekend. And I just want to thank you so much for giving your staff the opportunity to do that, because it's pretty rare that your boss takes you on a weekend retreat. So thank you.
Well, it's truly my pleasure. I mean, I have a corner office here in our Leonardtown space, and so I kind of see all the comings and goings, and I know that there's lots of great, phenomenal work being done here, not only by our clinicians, but our collaborators and our wellness providers and our administrative team. And there's such great work being done. We have to make sure that we're feeding and fueling each other as much as we do for ourselves. So it's an honor. It's a privilege to do that. So thank you for acknowledging that. And again, thank you so much for your help, because I really couldn't have done all of that without you and your willingness to step away from your little lady for the first time. And, that could be a whole nother conversation for another day, right? Just kind of understanding that moms need that too, and that the kiddos need it. They need to have someone else to care for them for just a short moment and learn to get their needs met in different ways. So good opportunities all around. So thanks again, Logan, for jumping on to this podcast with me. I have been doing this for a year now and recorded many, many episodes, so I'm pretty comfortable, but I know that not everyone is as comfortable jumping in front of a camera and in front of a microphone. So thank you for chatting with me about self-care. I really appreciate that.
Of course, again, happy to be here. You ready to start planning the next retreat?
I think I'm ready. Anastasia and I actually had about a 45-minute long conversation on the way home Sunday, and I may have already found our location for next year, so more information to come on that. And we have dabbled with the idea of doing some retreats for our listeners as well, for our community. So maybe this is an opportunity for us to burn a little fire under them and gain some interest for some potential retreats for our community as well. And maybe we start with a half day, the way that we did with our staff, and see how it builds. So more to come. We'll see what the future has in store. So listeners, thank you as always for sitting and hearing Logan and I chat about our self-care retreat. And I hope you take just a little nugget about how you might incorporate self-care into your day, maybe even make your own little retreat at home, and be sure to take care of yourself. I hope you have a great day, and thanks again for listening.